We say that we're socialists. There are only two economic systems in the world, only two, capitalism or socialism, and there can only be two, simply because every economic system must answer one fundamental question: who will own and control the wealth of the country? Who will own and control the means of production? The question can only be answered two ways: either a few will own or everybody will own. It's as simple as that. A capitalist system is a backward system. The backwardness of the system and the injustice of the system can be seen in its material makeup. How is it possible that a few people have the right to own everything? There's no justification for this. How can one tell me that Rockefeller has the right to own all the oil in America? How is this possible? The capitalist system does not just exploit our labor, it comes to deform our thinking. Indeed, anyone who justifies an unjust system must have their thinking deformed. Of course, the capitalist system will justify it. The other day, while raising this discussion with some students who were confused by capitalism, I said, how is it possible for what? Well, you know, let me tell you something, Kwame Ture. In a society, you can work hard. And if you work hard and you work hard in others, you should get money. I said, is that true? Yeah, well, if that's true, Africans should own America lock, stock, and barrel. In a capitalist system, it's not hard work that makes you rich. It's ruthless exploitation. The more ruthlessly you exploit, the richer you become. It is nothing but ruthless exploitation makes one rich in a capitalist system. We say the capitalist system is a backward system. Thus, only socialism will unite Africa. And let me tell you something, socialism is coming to the entire world. We say from the very beginning that we are sure that victory is inevitable. This is based on a proper understanding of the instincts of human beings. Human beings have a just instinct, and any time the masses of them come together, they're only dominated by just impulses. In order to prove our point, we could look at the enemies of humanity. Let us look at Adolf Hitler. When Hitler brought the Nazis together, he did not tell them that they were fighting, thank you, an unjust war. On the contrary, he assured them that the struggle they were engaged in was a just struggle. Look, said he, they took all our land from us, they stripped us, all of them are advancing, none are advancing, they've made advantage of us, they've been unjust against us, and we must now reach justice through a just struggle. Of course. In the 1960s, when the United States of America was engaged in a filthy war in Vietnam, Ho Chi Minh, a great advancer of humanity, told the Vietnamese people that they were fighting for justice. Lyndon Baines Johnson, representing a capitalist system, told American boys that he was standing 10,000 miles away that they were fighting for justice. Consequently, just by looking clearly at the enemies themselves, we will understand this just instincts. The people will justly struggle irrespective of what obstacles are in their path, and they will do this even unconsciously. Capitalism will try to make it appear as if these just instincts for struggle is somehow limited by time. Nothing is further from the truth. Here, the Irish come to give us a sterling example, as sterling as the British pound used to be. And getting weaker every day. Over 800 years ago, British imperialism marched into Ireland with the object of dominating the Irish. Today, 800 years later, the gallant Irish continue their struggle to reclaim their land. And it's only a stupid man or woman who doesn't realize if it takes them another 800 years, the Irish are going to rid Ireland of Britain and unify their country. Thus, from the very beginning, we say that we know victory is assured, just based on the instinctive love of justice of the people alone. The task of revolutionaries is not to give the people the solutions to their problem, but to make them conscious of their unconscious movement, since the people are unconsciously moving towards freedom anyway. We say it's instinctive. We said that we are socialists, and that socialism is the only system that can give us justice and equality and peace. We do not need to discuss the evils of capitalism today, really. Can anyone really tell me that America can give democracy to anybody in the world when it, priding itself on being the richest country in the world, has at the same time 6 million homeless and don't give a damn about not one of them? In fact, makes the people immune. What kind of democracy is this? What type of democracy that would inquire and inspire a people to acquire wealth and at the same time having wealth, having the most extreme aspects of poverty when every man, woman, and child in the world knows that America is capable of giving free housing, giving free living, giving proper health care to all of its citizens, and the capitalist pigs won't even lose a cent in their profit? The barbaric aspect of capitalism is clear for all to see today. There's no need to belabor the point. The capitalist system, of course, has to deform our thinking. A man the other day said, Kwame Ture, you still talking about socialism? I said, of course. He said, why? I said, well, I'm intelligent. He said, well, of course. He said, well, didn't you hear that socialism is dead? I said, it is. He said, yes. Well, I don't know, maybe I slept through it. It's possible. Martin Luther King has a very nice speech I recommend to you. It's on Rip Van Winkle. It's called A Man Who Slept Through a Revolution. So I thought maybe I slept through. He said, you didn't see what happened with Gorbachev? I told him, oh, please stop that. He said, I said, stop that. I said, capitalism is thinking deformed. No one judges a system by its adherents. Everyone judges a system by its principles. I'm talking fusion. How can, he said, what do you mean? I said, do you judge Christianity by Christians? Anyone judging Christianity by Christians would have to admit, we got to get rid of this one. When we judge Christianity, we judge it by its principles. When you judge socialism, you don't judge it by socialist, you judge it by its principles. The confusion, however, is compounded and has a lot to do with nationalism and sovereignty, a lot to do with it. This question of socialism itself has become very confusing. White revolutionaries coming out of Europe have not waged a cultural revolution against the racism inside the culture of Europe, and therefore they themselves sometimes become tainted with it. One of these aspects is that they sometimes take the particular history of Europe and try to make it the universal history of the world. Examples: when one speaks of nationalism and sovereignty, here must be properly understood. A people can only say they are free when they think for themselves. A people can only say they are free when they think for themselves. And all people think from their culture. And since all cultures are different, it means that people must have independent thinking. We should not be afraid of independent thinking. It will only come to verify for us universal truths. This aspect of individual thinking is necessary. I have read great books on revolution coming out of the Soviet Union when they were serious, before being betrayed by this man Gorbachev here. And oh yes, this one thing we must say now, you must not think that socialism went anywhere. It's only been betrayed. And when a system is betrayed, it never collapses. If a system collapses because of betrayal, Christianity with Judas. Judas just had dignity, hung himself. Gorbachev has none. He's still running around the world trying to pick up 30 pieces of silver everywhere. Yeah. But the truth is the light. We say this aspect of understanding socialism must be properly understood. Great books in the Soviet Union used to make statements that Karl Marx founded socialism. Nothing is further from the truth. Karl Marx could not found socialism. Let me tell you, I am 52 years of age. I came into contact with the reading of Karl Marx when I was 16. I shall read him until I die. He's a great man. I recommend him to everyone. But Karl Marx did not invent socialism. His great contribution to humanity was in the area of historical materialism and dialectical materialism. This is where he made his contribution. Saying that Karl Marx invented socialism will create a lot of confusion for a lot of people. In the West, they call the laws of gravity Newton's laws. I'm sure it's a mnemonic device for students to pass tests. No one can truly tell us. No one can truly tell us that. It's a fact. 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 Certainly no one can tell us that Newton can invent that a body falls at 32 feet per second squared. You can't do that. If I'm sitting in Timbuktu in West Africa, never having any prior knowledge of Sir Isaac Newton, doing any experiments with gravity, I would come to the exact same conclusion as he does. A body in motion tends to stay in motion unless stopped by an outside force. This is the same thing about socialism. If I'm sitting in Libya, in North Africa, in the desert, doing any experiments and research with capital and labor, having no prior knowledge of Lenin, Engels, Marx, or any of the great socialist writers, I would come to the exact same conclusion. Wherever capital seeks to dominate labor, there'll be a ruthless, uncompromising struggle on the part of labor until it comes to smashes capital and dominates capital. This is a fact. Karl Marx cannot invent this. Anybody can understand socialism. It's a universal truth. Therefore, if socialism falls in Europe, if it falls in Europe, which it cannot, we should not assume it falls everywhere else, because it is not Europe that gave us socialism. It is a universal truth. Karl Marx correctly observed it. But without knowledge of Karl Marx, anyone interested in this relationship can find it. If one would even take readings and go back to the 11th century AD in Tunisia, where an African by the name of Ibn Khaldun was writing, one would see the exact same terms: labor, surplus labor, origin of the state, etc., etc. And this was in the 11th century, written by Ibn Khaldun. We want to make these points clear. In no way must you think that we are slighting Karl Marx, not us. We know what a great man he is, and we will never tire of encouraging everyone to read Marx, to read Engels, and to read Lenin, just to understand the forces that control your life, so you'll be clearer and better able to make a contribution in the field of justice. But this aspect of socialism must be properly understood. Socialism is universal. Everyone will arrive at socialism, hear me well. And by this, in no way does it mean to imply that I am imposing upon every fighting movement a socialist objective. No. But when I say socialist objective, I mean everyone will arrive at a just economic system. Of that there isn't the slightest question. And arriving at that just economic system is what we call socialism. So here we do not seek any conflict over terminology. We're speaking a language of the oppressor, and we must bend it to the conditions that we find ourselves in.